My name's Robert Lederman. I'm the president of Artists' Response to Illegal State Tactics. The group was founded in 1993 as a response to the city's policy of arresting all of the street artists in New York City. Myself, I've been selling my art on the street since 1962, when I was 12 years old. And for most of that time, I was an illegal vendor, according to the city's categorization of what I was. But there wasn't much in the way of arrests or harassment. It was very occasional. Then when Giuliani got elected mayor of New York, the business improvement districts, which are very powerful real estate organizations, pressured him to eliminate all the street artists from the street. It looked pretty clear to me that we had a First Amendment right, a free speech right, to sell our art on the street without any license or any permit. And we got a lawyer. We eventually made a lawsuit. It took 4 years to win the first lawsuit. It went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we got a very sweeping ruling in our favor that said that when an artist is showing his or her work on the street, they're as protected by free speech as a newspaper publisher is. They immediately created a permit, basically tried to redo the whole case. And the permit fight started up here at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Central Park, which is where we're standing now. They instituted the permit. We began a protest as soon as they announced the permit, before they even put it into place. We protested continuously for 65 days. Hundreds of us were arrested. It was a very bitter kind of a protest because the city at this point was desperate to defeat us. And a lot of the arrests had nothing to do with vending, basically. I was arrested more than 20 times in front of the Metropolitan Museum during those 65 days. Some of the arrests were even quite violent because the city officials were trying to discourage us from protesting, trying to make us give up again. He appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And in his appeal, what they wrote was that art is unworthy of First Amendment protection because it does not express ideas, unlike a speech. Vendors who have the permits from the Parks Department are paying anywhere from $10,000 to $750,000 a year for each of those vending spots. So from the city's point of view, free speech is a tremendous loss of revenue, $1 billion for the equivalent of the spots that the street artists are now occupying for free. We've kept it here through great effort, completely open. No limitations on the medium, no limitations on what kind of person can show. You don't have to be approved by me or by the mayor or by the police or by anybody. You can just show up here and show your art. And we believe that that's the real nature of what free speech is about. This dynamic is reproduced in every city. For example, one of the most recent battles that's going on is in Venice Beach, California. And there you have a boardwalk that's huge, world famous for street artists who've been there for many decades. They're not interfering with any business. They're clearly not obstructing a sidewalk. It's a boardwalk. It's meant as an attraction, and certainly the artists and the vendors are a big part of what the attraction is. But because the real estate interests in Venice Beach make a lot of money renting little storefronts to people who sell souvenirs to the tourists, those business interests look at the artists that are set up on the boardwalk for free, and they're thinking, this is hurting my rental, because instead of paying $20,000 a month to rent a little stall, the artist can go over there and set up for free. So and then they complain to their landlord, why is my rent so high? I'm gonna break the lease and go set up for free. So then the landlords pressure the local elected officials. And in most cities, the real estate interests are what gives the campaign donations to the elected official. The average person doesn't donate money. The real estate interests do. So the real estate interests get to pressure the elected officials to take away the First Amendment rights of the artists that the elected officials know they actually have. In fact, in Venice Beach, 5 or 7 years ago, somebody won a federal lawsuit just like mine, which said they had a First Amendment right to set up there without a permit. So the city officials and the lawyers of Venice Beach violated that lawsuit recently, created a permit and a lottery system there, limited the free speech that existed, so now you need a permit and you have to be in a lottery to get a chance to be in one of a very limited number of spots. From a business point of view, it seems reasonable because people say you're making money. An infinite number of people can't set up in a place no matter how big it is. So we're going to make a lottery and a permit as a way to reasonably restrict the freedom to keep things orderly. The problem with that is that, as the Founding Fathers understood, as soon as there's a permit, as soon as you need permission from somebody, that person is in the position to deny you permission. If they can't deny you permission, what would be the meaning of permission? And inevitably, when they have the ability to deny you permission, somebody's going to pressure them to deny it to you. It might be for an economic reason. It might be even worse because they don't like the content of what you're going to express. Maybe it's political art. Maybe it has a sexual content, or maybe it has a social message that they just don't like. So the Founding Fathers made, as the very first amendment to the Constitution, a law that Congress, in other words the government, could make no law abridging freedom of speech. It's interesting to note that they didn't make a list of the kinds of free speech that were protected. They made it as broad as they could, because these were very progressive thinking individuals. They understood that in the years and centuries ahead in the United States, many new mediums of expression would be created, as obviously they have. Now we have the internet, we have TV, we have video, we have everything. So they didn't just say that printing or leaflets or books or making a speech from a soapbox are protected. They said Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. They made it as general as possible. And because of that, street artists were able to take what seemed a very surprising notion to some people, including some federal judges, that artists could sell their work on the street without any permission. And we were able to open up that right to everybody using that free speech amendment in the Constitution. The city many times has tried to take away the free speech rights of the general public. And our case is cited whenever somebody sues the city about free speech, and it usually helps deliver a victory to them. I went to Washington to give out leaflets about our issue, and they arrested me on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, which I also sued about. And as a result of winning that lawsuit, Lederman v. United States of America, it became legal that you could protest or give out leaflets on the steps of the U.S. Capitol without permission. Now, a lot of people might think, well, what's the big deal? You go into the Capitol and you fill out some forms and they give you permission. But that's not the way it worked. First of all, it took 3 or 4 days to get the permit. So if you went to Washington and you wanted to reach the elected officials as they're going into the building, even by quietly holding up a small sign, it would take you minimum 3 or 4 days to get permission. So the issue that you went there to make your message about, let's say they're going to vote today about a new law, you've already been precluded from reaching them.